Hey everyone, welcome to another typology interview. We have Peter. How's it going, Ben?
Hey man, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. I've really liked
Yeah.
your videos for a long time, as I was telling you in the pre-interview. So this is great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So you've been in the community for a long time, and you haven't really been interviewed much, or I don't know how to maybe just talk about your history and typology a little bit so that we get a feel for what's going on.
Oh wow, yeah. No, I've been in the community for a long time before OP and all of that. I think you and I may have been in the community for as long as each other, kind of. Like I started, I think I took my first test uh, a decade ago, maybe a bit more, when I was still in high school, or just starting out in high school. And yeah, I've just been in and out of the community since then, just going on small forums and Reddit and just trying to find new information. And like yeah, and that's kind of how I got to know Dave Powers and his way of looking at it and started admiring that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew about OP like right from the get-go, or you discovered it afterwards, or?
Well, I was kind of lucky in it that I was one of the beta testers of OP. So I was one of the first people that Dave reached out to, and that I
Hmm.
talked to Dave about before the website and the YouTube channel went live. So yeah, I've known about it from before it was launched, and have been along for the ride to see what it's grown into now, which is really impressive.
Really cool. So what's the beta testing thing that you were involved in? Just getting video typed?
Right. Yeah. No, the just talking to Dave and Shan really from the very beginning and getting typed by them, as you said, like one of the first things where I would do, long calls and video chats with them. And yeah, just hearing like their ambitions and goals with what they were going to. And they were really open to like feedback and new like takes on things. And yeah, it was really exciting because at the time, I don't know if you remember, but like typology was really subjective and really like a lot of just feelings and like how is it, like how do I
Mhm.
feel NI is, how do I feel TE is. It was really easy to get 100 different takes on what everything was, and
Yeah,
then to hear them come in and be like, we want to clearly define everything, was really refreshing to me and a lot of people, I think.
right. So did you have another type in mind for yourself before you were typed?
Actually, like I started out, a long time ago thinking I was INFJ. And then about a year or two before OP launched and before I was typed by them, someone else had said, "Oh, you seem like an ENFP." So that was kind of just what I went by, but I didn't really have
Interesting.
any basis to base it off of. So it was just like a lucky guess, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know they've gone through a few different phases from the beta test. Did they stick by the type they gave you from the very beginning, or did they update it a little bit?
They stuck by it more or less. I think they slightly disagreed on my type in the beginning, but then they
Oh,
came
cool.
around to seeing it the same way. Yeah. I think Shan originally saw me as Dave's type,
Oh,
which is interesting. Yeah, but they, I mean, they went back and typed me again, and then got the same type. Yeah.
yeah. I'm also wondering. So, okay, so I'm just going to talk about. I saw a doc of someone else who got typed pretty early, and I was on their doc, and I had a different type there than when I got typed, and they told me it's because they didn't know about info and energy dom back then, and that it
Ah,
was like a very slightly different thing with the animals. But I mean,
right. Yeah.
right. So, did they ever update you on that, or they just got you?
I feel like I
Yeah.
mean, I talk to Dave and Shan every once in a while still, in emails and on phone calls and stuff, and they haven't mentioned changing their minds. And I mean,
Oh,
I think they got me pretty much on the money, as I guess I should say, right? Does it say in the description?
yeah, I
But
put it in the description. You sent it in my
okay, good.
email, so I couldn't ignore your type. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. No, I see it. Like sometimes I do get that thing. I think it's like a very DI thing to put an EP to put it in OP terms. I get that very like self above tribe thing of being like, maybe I'm SI Dom, and I'm like, no, that's just what I really want to be. That's not what that's not what I really am. And then also because I'm a mopey guy, or like a very introverted guy that spends a lot of time on their own, I think I'm just inclined to think I'm an introvert when really
Mhm.
I'm just preserving energy.
Yeah. I just want to address one comment really quick. Uh, 8-bit Doggos said about no OPS video and maybe something bad happened. Even if something bad happened, they have videos scheduled like 2 months, just so people know. So like, even if Dave were to die tomorrow, he would still have 2 months of videos coming out. So it doesn't mean something bad happened that there was no video today.
Oh yeah, no.
Um, yeah,
It could just be a mistake, you know.
yeah, probably
Just
something like
it
that.
could just come up.
I didn't even check, so that's news
No,
to
me
me.
neither. Me neither.
Okay, so you got put as NE Dom, right?
Mhm.
So have you seen that? Like, you've sat with your type for a while, so I guess you've seen that a little bit. Do you have a little explanation of what NE is for you, how you see it in yourself?
That's a great question. I think for me, I can't really see my saviors that much.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can see is where I have deficits, right? So like I can see in myself and track the kind of the what can you say, like the missing parts of my behavior, like where I will naturally just neglect everything and just
Right.
cause trouble for myself down the road. And I can really see that if I'm not careful and if I'm not thinking about it, me not worrying about what the tribe or everyone else is thinking and what they feel about things, as well as organizing my life and organizing literally everything around me. If I'm not consciously thinking of doing that, I will neglect it and feel awful because of it. So those are the ways that I can kind of see, like, it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense for me that I am NEFI because TE and SI are the ones that I don't spend enough time doing in my life if I'm not consciously choosing to do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're twin types with Jonathan Michael Knott, right?
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because like you do come off a little bit the same energetically, I guess, because people have disputed him being ENFP as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is an interesting combination. And I've thought about it a lot. The whole like stereotype about what an ENFP is, and then like how you are when you're like a quiet or like introspective ENFP.
Exactly.
Because I think to a lot of people, I think it's easy for us to come across as introverts or like to come across as like maybe INFPs. I mean, that was something that people disputed sometimes before OP started, where I was like, no, you seem like INFP, because people at the time, and we didn't think about it at that time, the differences between an observer and a decider. So they didn't see it that way. It was just like INFP, in those days for a lot of people just meant like quiet ENFP, you know? So like
Right.
there was a debate that was going on a lot at the time. Yeah. But it is an interesting thing to be an introverted extrovert, you know, with energy
Yeah.
levels. Yeah.
Also, I'm noticing. Okay, so you were put as blast last, but I'm noticing you're not going in circles. You're not rambling. You have a point. You're saying your point. What's up with that? I don't see the blast struggles. Have you been practicing at it?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, okay, so this is the thing I've talked to people about is I feel like this might be controversial. I don't know. I feel like society is kind of geared towards helping people who are blast last overcome blast last troubles. And
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, in a way, it's socially acceptable to be blast last in a way, because people, like, we have all these mechanisms in society and education and at the workplace, at everything, where you can go to like workshops and get help from people and teachers and all these, to learn how to articulate and how to overcome the shyness and
Mhm.
anxiety and all these things, which aren't available for people who are maybe play last or like
Right.
sleep last and stuff. Like if you're like, I don't know how to put it, but like if you're someone that, you know, maybe has consumed last, all the blame, it feels like, gets put on you, because you're like, you're just lazy. Why aren't you doing your homework? Why aren't you doing blah blah blah? There aren't the same levels of care put into people who need help
Mhm.
learning how to consume, if that goes against what they want. But there really is for people who are blessed last, I think. So like my whole life, I think I've kind of uh, been able to take advantage of all these things, where like I've learned how, I've gone to workshops on how to articulate myself and how to get a point across and blah blah blah. And these things are all very available to people who have
Yeah.
trouble with it. And
Okay, so I did see it a little bit there. Okay, like I'll just feedback on what I was seeing. So like
cool.
when I asked the question right away, you had the answer. And then it just took you time to say it, like to unpack it and actually say it, because you had the answer already ready. So like that seems like a high blast when you have that answer ready and you're just saying it, like you have a point that you're going to make. But then after you made the point, you just kept making the point and that kind of stuff. So then I saw a little bit of the struggle there, but
Right.
it's very elusive. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a struggle because sometimes I worry if I've made the point to such an extent that it makes sense, and then I just go back and make it again.
Right. That's
Yeah.
another thing too. Okay, so like sensory savior wants it to make sense as well. Like that's something they're responsible that it makes sense. They're responsible to give all of the details. And it seems like you kind of take responsibility for SI as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of always attributed my like I always feel like I have to be responsible for SI, and I think for me I've attributed that to having masculine SI, or like having like a a lot of introverted energy and then masculine SI, and put that
Yeah.
on top of thing. I don't know, but
Because I
yeah, I
know,
definitely,
yeah,
yeah, I
I
spend,
know
yeah.
SI gets offended when they're not understood, or they're not clear, or they're understood in a different way, because they have like one specific way that they want to be understood. And if and so if they have that responsibility for clarity, you know? And it feels like that's kind of what you're doing as well. Like, would you get offended if someone misunderstood you? Would that bother you?
That's a great question. I think it depends on, I mean, generally, let's just say yes.
Yeah.
But it would depend on, like, if I feel like I would be or more offended or more clearly offended if it was within a field that I know a lot about, that I've spent a lot of time consuming information about it, and then assuming that I'm wrong, or assuming
Mhm.
that, or just not being able to understand the information that I was giving out. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what about in terms of when you're consuming, when you're gathering concepts, are you trying to put it into an analogy so that you can consume it? Like, what's that conversion process? Because just taking stuff in is too passive for consume. Consume is actually like an active thing as well. So like, are you doing that conversion in your head when you're trying to learn stuff, or?
I mean, kind of, I guess. But to be honest, I prefer information in like an SI way. Like
Wow.
yeah, I like having, um, uh, when things get too analogous to me, it seems, I don't know, foreign, or like when things get too distracted from the point it's trying to make, I kind of, I lose track of what's going on. I like sensory examples when I'm learning stuff.
Uh-huh. That's interesting. Um, what about making connections when you're consuming, when you're discovering the new? Is that something that you're conscious of? That like, okay, where does this new piece fit in? What does it contradict? Where how does it change things? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was that's something I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I when someone's telling me something I have trouble understanding, I feel like I always go like, oh, so you're saying this is like this thing, and then like it'll say like
There you
yes or
go.
no, and then I'll understand it more. I think, yeah,
Uh-huh.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it makes perfect sense. What about in terms of like, let's talk about your FI a bit. In terms of like priorities, are you clear about what your priorities are in life? Do you know what's important to you? Even
Brr.
can you order it, or?
Do I know my priorities? I think for me, and this is really hard because no, I don't think I'm really clear on what my priorities are. I think I'm just aware of my limitations, and I'm aware of what I'm not okay with. I think that's what it is really. So like I'll be very clear and very understood about things I don't like, and be very quick to like say no, or to like say I'm not into this, or I don't want this. But I'm not really good at understanding my own strengths. I'm not really good at understanding what I really want to do with my life, that sort of thing. I'm not, so it's more like, it's I would say
Yeah,
like maybe it's an anything of having to discover along the way what I'm going towards, which is really awful. And I wouldn't
right.
recommend
Yeah,
it to anyone. Like it's always better to have a goal and work towards getting to that goal, and then see, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And then you can always
yeah. So
change your
that
goal.
that sounds like what you're. I think you interpreted the question to mean like, do you have an eye? But like priorities
Yeah.
is like what's important to you, like family, friends,
Mhm.
computers, education, that kind of stuff. Like,
Mhm.
is there a personal priority list that you have of love, peace? I don't know.
Not really. No, I
No.
mean, what I do is I think I put a lot of energy and time into, um, I guess just like uh, watching movies and listening to music and like prioritizing what I like there and like
Okay.
recommending it and sending it on to people and like that's the most that's the most like FIE I get in my life. Like I'm not
Mhm.
really this is awful. I can't believe I'm about to say this on the internet for it to be on the internet forever, but like I don't really care about people that much. Like I don't
Yeah.
really no, I can take and leave people in a way. Like and like I like everyone. That's the thing, is like it's fine, but like I'm also like too weird to be like the type of person that would notice if someone's not here anymore. I don't know. Like it's
Yeah.
really weird. Like
That's a bit of prioritizing there as well, like saying
yeah,
where people are in your list. Um,
yeah, yeah, that's
what
awful.
about in terms
Yeah.
of like concepts and ideas or ideals and things like that? Are those prioritized? Like, are there ideals that are subservient to other ideals?
Not really. I mean, maybe when I was younger. When I was younger, I was more like I when I was 20, 22, I was more I had a lot of ideals and I had a lot of things that I was like, this is what I believe in, this is what I don't believe in. But as I've gotten older, I feel like most of those ideals have kind of dissipated in the wake of pragmatism. Like as I've experienced life and the world and people and places and things, I feel like I've kind of lost a lot of my ideals in a very healthy way. I think where I
Yeah.
just kind of nuanced everything, smoothed everything out in like a very boring way. You know.
Mhm. Okay. What about in terms of yeah? What about in terms of your your passion, your authenticity, who you are, things like this?
What do you mean exactly?
Okay, so like, what does authenticity mean to you?
Authenticity. That's a great question. Again, I feel like most of it I feel like I can't give really interesting answers because to me it's more like um don't I don't mean this in the political way, but I'm more of a reactionary person. You know, like I'm more like if someone does something that seems inauthentic, I'll point it out and go, that wasn't authentic. You know what I mean? Like I can't give you a formula for what is and isn't authenticity or what is and isn't authentic, really, because it's more like I'm more aware of what isn't authentic than what is authentic. So
Mhm.
I'll often do things in the moment and then be like, oh, that was really inauthentic, or like, oh, that was really gross that I just said that or did that, like I shouldn't have said that because that seems really fake. But I can't tell you. I wish I could, but I can't tell you like this is what's authentic and this is what is inauthentic, because I feel like it depends so much on the person and the context and why they're saying it, and if there's like an underlying, like if they're doing it to seem sympathetic or if they're doing it to seem authentic, because to me that's also inauthentic. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It's so like I feel like I'm giving terrible answers, but
No, no.
uh,
If as long as you're representing yourself, like these are great answers. I'm having a hard time mapping you to FI and like to a feeler and not a thinker, because you're giving so many reasons for everything. You're qualifying everything with reasons. You know?
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
it like
wonder
a
if
double
that's like
deciding
an
thing too?
acquired thing.
Or
Sorry,
what? No, I was
it
just
could
gonna.
be a
Is that
social
also
thing.
like a double deciding thing in a way, like where it's like going back and forth? I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah. Maybe thing. Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, do you see yourself sometimes argue for things that aren't logical, or just because you have that FI at the bottom that's pushing you, like, I want this, so I'm gonna find a logical reason to get it, or to prove that it's right or it works
Yeah, I
best?
think that's yeah. I think one of the things that I do is I'll find something and then decide if I like it or not. And then once I decide, okay, I like this thing, I will then go look for reasons to qualify or like to justify me liking it. You know what I mean? Like I'll be like,
Yeah.
this movie is great, and then I'll start looking up everything about it, and then be like, it's great because this guy also directed this thing, or this actor is really good in this thing, or like so I still feel like I still feel responsible for giving reasons for why I like stuff, but it will be predicated on me already liking it or disliking it. So like there's
Right.
always but
Well,
I do always feel responsible for having reasons as to why, or to explain why I like something.
Right.
I don't. Yeah, I need that. Yeah.
Will the inverse ever happen? Will reasons to like something ever cause you to like it?
Um. Uh. Do reasons? That's a great question. I would have to think. Um. Yes. Yeah. You know what? That does happen. Yeah. There are reasons. There are times where, like, if I don't like something and you give me reasons to as to why I'm wrong, I can change my mind. Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah. Like if someone makes really good points and gives really good reasons, I will change my mind. Yeah.
Can you just tell us some of the things that you like? Because we're just talking abstractly here. Generally,
Oh.
I mean, yeah.
Some things I like. I like having fun. I don't like not having fun. No, let's see. What do I like? I like music. I like movies. This is just like the most broad. Come on. Okay, Peter, come on. Bring it down. Sensory. Um I like my headphones because they are good and they replicate sound good. I don't know. How am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I doing?
No, I'm just okay. So what about in terms of like freedom, like the freedom to explore, the need to always take in the new, that kind of stuff. Is that
Oh,
something that you experience or?
kind of. Kind of. I mean, yeah, I like variation on things. I like taking, but like mostly I like going in depth with stuff. I like, but again, this is like, you know what this is? I think this is also a thing of like me getting older. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm
Right.
30 now, and I've traveled all over the world. I've seen all these different things, and like I don't, like I just want to sit down now. I just want to like sleep.
Okay. Okay, so the consumed sleep is very personal energy. Do you see sometimes that like the maybe people don't see you as pulling your own weight because you're so focused on spending energy for your own self and your own person, I guess, and not for the tribe?
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, I need a lot of time. That is true. I need a lot of time on my own to process and like understand and consume and just like respect different things and getting up. But like, I think I'm good at telling myself that when I'm doing something with other people, I need to like be aware of, like respecting their time and respecting their work as well. So like I will, I like if we talk about doing something, I will do my thing and I will push the project forward and stuff. So like I don't think that I'm neglecting others to consume and sleep. You know what I mean? Like I'm more
Mhm.
like I just feel responsible for getting as much of it in for myself as possible. And then because I have that just this like I feel like I have to respect others' time and like and energy and work. I will crash myself, making sure
Yeah.
that others don't hate me.
So this is something that I had a misconception way early when I started my interviews, that like, but NE is really in the head. It's really looking internally at your patterns and your observations internally, like disconnected and detached from the world. Do you feel like you're too stuck, or you were in the past too stuck in that savior NE, just too much in your own head, looking at the possibilities,
Hmm.
looking at what could happen?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I have. I've had like full years of my life just wasted because I haven't known which direction to go in my life, where I've just felt like I wanted to do everything. So if I did nothing, I wouldn't be excluding any opportunities or any options for myself,
Hmm.
you know? So like if I was like, I really want to do this and this and this and this and this, and then I would feel like it's actually more productive of me to do none of them, because then I could always jump on the thing that I wanted to do in the
Right.
future, instead of like if
Yeah.
I dedicated myself to being one thing, I would be excluding all these other things. So
Yeah,
that was
that's an
definitely a thing that I
interesting
experienced.
paradox. So that's something that Jung talks about in psychological types, that kind of paradox where like the NE is basically trapping themselves in their own cage in
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
It's true. That's a great book. I reread it recently. He explains things in a very funny way. Have you read his section on the FI? I was like, this
Yeah.
is basically, yeah,
Do you
he's
have
basically
a?
treating everything like it's an ex-girlfriend. That's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's used. That's the only function where he's like she, and it's like is basically described. Anyway, that's an aside.
Yeah. No, because he does attribute masculinity and femininity to the functions, and then he talks about them in that language. So yeah, intuition and feeling, he talks about them feminine in a feminine way,
Yeah,
especially when they're introverted.
yeah.
And the ST talks about very masculine, especially when they're extroverted. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, he was. I guess like he was attributing those archetypal male female roles on them as well. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
he also mentioned like generally these are masculine, more males have ST and females have NF.
yeah.
But like, yeah.
That's a good point. But
Um,
he also believed that there only really were eight types of people in the world at that time. Where he said that there's the introverted, intuitive guy and the extroverted,
yeah,
feeling.
no, he had a chapter about the auxiliary function and stuff like that too. Like, I don't think he ever limited the types. I mean, there's even quotes of him saying there could be 360 types if you wanted to go to that resolution.
Huh. I would have to reread the book then. For me, I think I
Yeah,
remember.
not in the book, in another source, but yeah, in the book, he's got something about the auxiliary. So for a long time, people were thinking because of his auxiliary chapter that there could be either 16 or 32 types, and that was the argument for a long time.
All right, I have to reread it. I
Yeah.
didn't read that part again. So yeah, that's cool.
Um, sensory. So this is something I got a guy at work too that's any dom very obvious, and he'll
Mhm.
just throw out numbers as if he knows what they are. And then, like, because I know he's an NE dom, I know to check his numbers. I know to check what he's throwing out, and he's always off by something. And do you ever get that where you just like guess at a number just to like have some kind of sensory there?
Yeah, yeah. I've been, yeah. I catch myself doing that a lot, and then I'm like, oh no, I can't believe I just said this out loud because I'll say a number and I'll just. But I've learned to kind of edit myself a little bit when it comes to it, and just be like, aim low, always aim
Right.
low whenever I'm saying a number, and I'll put up like a probably in front of the number all now, or like a about
Good for
or
you. Yeah.
precise.
Yeah. Good for
Try
you.
to not commit to any specific number.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is something I've done in the past a lot and still will do from time to time. Just like commit to a number where I'm just like, oh no, if they check my sources, I'm
Or
screwed.
like a
Yeah,
detail or something like that. He's like, I saw this in this book, and I was like, I don't think that was in that book. And then he looks
yeah,
it up, and or I look it up, and I'm like, it was in this other book. He was like, whatever, it doesn't matter. It was in a
yeah,
book. That's the important
yeah.
part.
I think it's more, yeah, it's when we give, like, for me at least, when I say a number, I'll be like, it's a metaphorical number, it's like
Right.
a thing to underline the underlying point of what I'm saying. Don't think about the sensory example I just gave you. Don't just throw that away, but just
Yeah.
it's a lot, or it's not a lot, So it's like to underline what I'm saying, but it's not a good practice. It's not a good thing to do because it's deceptive, right? Like it's not healthy. It's not good.
Well, it's deceptive only if someone needs the sensory, like is taking the sensory seriously. If they're
Right.
not, then it's like it's just a ballpark roundabout sort of thing. That's about
Yeah.
this. Like, so like the one case I was talking about, he was talking about this guy who wrote a book and he died at the age of 38, and he threw out the number 32. He's like, yeah, he died at the age of 32. He was so young. I was like, I don't think that's right. Like he was young, but I think it was more like 40 or 38 or something. And he was like, no, 32. He's like, so sure. And then we look it up and he was off. But it's
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
Yeah. And it hurts inside because then you're like, but I think for a lot of people and also like for myself, I really am sure when I'm saying it. And then as I'm looking back, I'm like, oh no, I wasn't really sure about that number. It's like, it felt so right when I said it, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, this was just a guess. I think I'm reporting facts, but it's just like an educated guess at best.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess for the most part, like this is something that I've seen too. That's like, so all of this intuition is pointing at a fact that should be there. So let's just say this is what the fact is, and then it probably is that. If someone
Yeah.
ever checks me, they'll probably find out that I was right.
Right. It is like that. Have you ever seen like that GIF from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie's connected all these dots, and he's like a crazy person with a shirt and
Right.
pointing at it, looking like he hasn't slept for a week. Like that is kind of what NE is basically, because it is like you have all these connections and it's a mess in your head, and you're like, but I'm sure this makes sense because I have all these connections that I've made throughout my time on this planet. So it would be weird if this doesn't make sense, because it's like,
Right.
you know, all the string things, all the string connections I've put in my head just made out this pattern I'm presenting to you. And then when it falls apart, you're just like, oh, I've wasted all these years connecting if I can't even make this make sense, you know?
That's it's a good analogy, actually.
Thank you.
Uh, what about the TE? Do you see that as you needing to not needing, but like, do you like to process with others? Do you like to puzzle things with others? Like, or is it hard for you to do it on your own?
I don't like processing with others, but I make myself do it, essentially. I always like, I think, and this is something that I've kind of stumbled upon myself a little bit as time has moved on. I think my biggest fear is seeming dumb in front of other people that I respect. I think that's my biggest fear. And it's so stupid because like we're all just people. So there's no reason to be afraid of it because we all say and do stupid things all the time, right? But it's like I think it's a vain thing that I'm just like, I don't want people to think I'm stupid, because if I feel like people will lose all respect for me if they think I'm stupid. Like also I think that's a very human fear, right? We all pretty much go through that. So I don't want to process too much information with others because I fear that they will then say like, the amount of information you have now is way too limited. Like you coming at it, you should have at least twice as much information already as you're giving this information to us, right? So I would worry that people would think I'm not good enough.
That sounds almost TI, attaching your intelligence to your identity, or your logicking to your identity in a way.
Yeah, isn't it just DI? I feel like that's just DI, maybe. I don't know. Like my identity. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What do you kind of what do you kind of get stuck on that you need the tribe for sometimes?
What do I get stuck on? I get stuck on leaves. No. I don't know. Like, what do I get stuck on? I feel like I tell myself, I think that's what it is. I feel like I never get stuck on anything. And I only find out that I'm stuck once, like, I'm in a situation where I realize that I've gotten everything wrong.
Right.
So I never feel stuck. I'm always like, I can figure this out on my own. It's fine. It's great. Just let me sit down. I'll figure it out. I'll just like read a bunch of stuff about it, or I'll just like watch YouTube clips. It's all good. And then I'll realize once it's too late, once I really needed that information, that, oh, I didn't know anything. I knew nothing.
So like, is asking for help hard for you then?
Asking for help is the hardest thing in the world for me, pretty much. Yeah. If it's because I always feel like it's my responsibility to know how to do everything. I called my dad this summer and said, can you help me hang a shelf? And when he got here, he was the happiest person in the world, because he was like, you've never asked me for literally help for anything. And he was just like, he felt so validated because he felt that I needed him for the first time. And it was just like such a weird moment, because I feel like for me, I felt like I was always asking him for help, but he's never like, I'd never explicitly done it, I think.
Interesting. It sounds even like a TE sort of thing, where it's like getting stuff to work for others, or together with other people. Do you know your dad's type at all?
I think he is me upside down. I think he's SITE. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense then. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about in terms of the tidal waves from SI, maybe neglecting the sensory world for too long, things like that? Does that hit you?
It did. It hit me really hard. I mean, it does all the time. It still does. But this summer, I kind of decided, because I was in like a breakup, and I felt really bad about myself, and like I was then the whole Corona thing, and I was just in like a terrible place mentally. I didn't even know I was, but then it suddenly just hit me how like I was just looking around, and like I noticed that I hadn't cleaned my apartment since February, and it was June. I was like, this is disgusting. And I realized that it rubbed up on how I felt about myself as a human. So I just decided that I would take the whole summer, basically, all of June and all of July and the beginning of August, to get my life on track, basically. So I started like eating well, and I started organizing my whole apartment. So like, you can't see it right now, but all of my shelves have like Post-it notes and there's whiteboards, and it says on the shelves what's inside them and stuff. And like, I have all my shelves in the background organized by, different categories of stuff and office, and all my clothes. I went through it and threw out old clothes and stuff. And like, yeah,
that
so I've
sounds
really
like a crazy tidal wave where
Yeah.
like you just went all out on your apartment, like to the very end. Yeah.
Oh, my whole life, man. I went to IKEA 5 times this summer, just on the bus, everything. I don't have a car, so I just went on the bus myself, and bought giant boxes. And it was like, it was so warm, like I was sweating, but it was so therapeutic, because I felt like every time I went, I was solving all the problems in my life. And that's also something that's also just psychobabble, but it made me feel good in the moment. I felt like I was doing something instead of just sitting around and feeling bad for myself.
Cool. Well, good for you on that.
But now I'm letting it all fall apart again, because I'm back in university in person, and I'm not cleaning anymore, and I'm not respecting the sensory again. So there's another tide wave.
I'm sure you're still doing it more than someone on the NISE axis.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
What about SI in terms of neglecting your body, not even being aware that you have a body, thinking that you're just a mind floating in some ether, things like this?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I always feel, I was talking to another ENFP about this, NETE ENFP, Amelie. We met up this summer in Hamburg, in Germany, and we talked about how it feels like, or she mentioned that you can tell on people if they're SI or SE, because SI people sort of act like robots a little bit. Like, we all kind of like, we're uncomfortable in our own bodies. We're just kind of like, I have SI somewhere in my function stack, blah, blah, blah. Because it's always like, there's like, people just seem like very robotic or very uncomfortable in their own bodies. And I feel that very much in myself, where I'm just like, I feel uncomfortable in my body all the time. And like, as I'm sitting here and doing things, I always feel wrong. I feel like I'm always aware of my body in a negative way. Okay, so I've gone through phases of my life where I was in super good shape, and I had very low body fat percentage, and I was just like, really, like, I was doing so much to feel good about myself. But I felt the same way that I felt when I was the fattest about myself. I was always uncomfortable being in my own body, and I always wished that I could like go like transcend my own physical being and kind of just be this perfect machine, essentially. That to me is like how I ideally would like to live, as just this perfect machine that doesn't have to ever worry about itself or like take care of itself. Like, just like living, just like life function things annoy me endlessly. Like the fact that you have to brush your teeth 2 times a day, you have to shower daily, it's just so much maintenance to be alive, I just wish that I wouldn't have to do all this maintenance work every day just to exist, because like, that's the least interesting thing to me in existence. It's just all the maintenance work. But,
right. Yeah, that's a good. That was really good, by the way. So like, was it a struggle to get on top of that maintenance work? Is it a struggle every day to keep up with it? Is it something that it's just in the back of your mind now, you just do it automatically?
It's something I do automatically. It's something I've had to teach myself to do automatically. And I've gone through phases of my life, long stretches, where I've just like, I don't want to do this maintenance work. I'm just not going to do it. Let's see what happens. And it's not a good outcome. There's a reason why you need routines. There's a reason why you need to do these things that you are recommended you do. And it sucks, because like, ideally, I would want to do things my own way and just be like, the way everyone else has done it is wrong. I'm going to figure this out on my own and do it in a much better. No. All the maintenance stuff, you just have to do it. You just have to exercise. You just have to brush your teeth. You just have to shower. You just have to sleep. You just have, like, I've kind of discovered along the way that some things you just have to do. Like, some things people have, worked on for centuries, And there's a reason why the toothbrush looks the way it does. There's a reason why they say 2 times a day. There's a reason. Every time there's some kind of maintenance advice, it's always not just like some person saying it, it's always like thousands of years of people trying to do it better and not being able to, you know? What can you do?
So have you ever questioned that and then just tried not brushing your teeth for
Yeah.
a month? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You bet. Yeah. It's terrible. You feel awful.
Okay.
Can't recommend it to anyone. It was worst decision. Just like I had a period of my life where I was like, I'm going to train myself to never sleep. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. It was like the most miserable month of my life.
Right.
And I had a whole plan, man. I had a whole plan. I was like, I'm going to cut down 1 hour a day for a month. And then like, no, you turn into a crazy person because you people notice. You're just like, you are insane. And people stop hanging out with you. And like, it's too bad. It's just terrible time, terrible idea. Just do the maintenance stuff and realize that it's like, it's not that long anyway. It's not that it takes 5 minutes to brush your teeth. That's 10 minutes a day. It's, you know, okay, you have to sleep, but everyone else is asleep at that time too. So like, it's fine. It's fine. It's just a human thing. It's just an existence thing, you know?
Yeah. So it seems like it's restrictive for you, like the whole maintenance thing. It's like you're trying to find always a way around it, a way to eliminate it. And you got to the point where it's like, I'm just going to stop trying. Like that's the trap that I want to get out of, sort of thing.
Kind of. But, you know, I think when I turned 30, I was just like, it's fine. I was just like, I'm going to die anyway. I was just, no, really, like that sounds macabre, but like at the same time, I turned 30 and I was just like, you know, this is good. This whole, like, I don't need to spend all this energy raging at something that's out of my control. And it's actually like good. It feels good. Like if you work out, right? If you spend 30 minutes a day doing hard physical work, instead of spending hours trying to avoid doing it, if you do it, you feel more comfortable in your body and you have more energy for the rest of the day. So like it adds up. You're not losing half an hour of your day like I used to think of it. You're gaining the rest of the day in like feeling good about yourself, feeling comfortable, being more productive, doing stuff. It's like it's all about perspective in a way. And that like turning 30 for me was really the point where I was just like, oh, okay, cool, that makes sense.
Are you aware of that after you work out? Is it hard for you to be aware that you feel better? Or is it something that's obvious?
Yeah. I very much feel it once I've done it, but I forget it again. That's the thing, is the feeling. I forget how good it feels. You know what I mean? Like I forget like how much of a benefit I get out of working out almost immediately. Because I just like my instinct is to just not do it and just be comfortable in the moment. But that comfortable, I forget, isn't as comfortable as I could be. I have to like remind myself that no, I'll feel way better if I do this and then relax or then do stuff, you know?
Yeah, good blaster advice there.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about your play energy, and because it is a demon? Do you see it as a demon? Have you seen it sort of hurt you in your life a little bit?
I think for me it hasn't hurt me as much as it's like you know how like fire hoses work? Like you turn the nozzle and then it just sprays everywhere and on everyone, and then it's just like uncontrollable, and then you turn it off again and then like it just stops. That's how I see my play energy. Is like once I turn it on, I like almost like steamroll everyone like without noticing it, and then I'm just like, rah, look at me, play energy, rah, like almost like being too play-y without meaning to, and like almost aggressively play-y. And then once I don't have to anymore, I'm just like, ugh, I just sit down. Like right now, I'm like, I feel like I'm being extremely like, I'm being interviewed. I'm like, this is exciting. But then as soon as I'll turn off my camera, I'll just be like, you know what I mean? Like I'll just turn off.
Yeah. Have you tried figuring out that nozzle so that it doesn't do that? Like, have you tried? Is that some? Because like you are energy dom, I guess. So like that's something you should be trying to balance. That nozzle that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be much worse. I remember one time I was like hanging out with my brother, and I was maybe 19, and we were just talking, or I felt like we were talking. Turns out I was talking and interrupting him once he said something, and he just told me like, "Do you ever shut the F up?" It stuck with me. I was just like, oh, I guess I don't, do I? When I'm around people, I never shut up. So then,
Wow.
like, from that point on, I've always tried my best to always just tell myself, like, okay, now you shut up and let other people talk and let
Right.
people participate, and then you get back in. But it literally was just like I had to like work. I had to like consciously think about how conversations work. And there's also I really want people to feel comfortable when I'm talking with them, and I want everyone to feel included. So like I try to dose myself a little bit in how much I talk, because if I'm not
Yeah.
careful, I just talk forever, and I'll hate myself for doing it, because it's not, it doesn't feel good afterwards, because you just feel like you ran over everyone, and people. I always go away thinking they must all hate me, because I never let them talk.
It
And it's
seems like a little bit of pseudo FE going on there as well. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just feeling, isn't it? Like you're just
Yeah.
like feeling responsible for the vibes. I don't know.
Yeah. But like FI is like feeling responsible for your own vibe. FE is like
Kind
feeling
of.
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like it's not looking out to the spectrum of feeling. It's more just like, but I think it hurts me when I feel like I hurt others. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
when I feel like I restricted others.
What's something I see a lot as well in the OEs, especially OE DOMs, is that they'll just overtake conversations because they have so much and they just so many tangents and they can just keep going. It's like a myth that Blast talks a lot because Blast knows how to shut up. It's like
Yeah.
the low Blast that doesn't know how to shut up.
You know what? That's so true, and that's something I've noticed too. Is people who have a lot of blast, I assumed would be the people that would just roll me over, but I found that like blast savior people generally are the ones that are the best at knowing when to not talk, and I
Right.
respect that so much, because that's something.
Yeah, it's like
I've
they
spent-
know where to put the pressure.
Yes,
And like it's like that hose. So like if you make the nozzle more pointed, you get like all of this focused pressure. Whereas like if you open the nozzle, it'll like just spray everywhere and it's just
yeah,
yeah. And so like
that's
that's how it feels like a high blast. They just know where to put that pressure. Whereas OE is just like we everywhere.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think there's also just like such an FI thing where I'm just like, I like all these things. I'm going to share all these things with you. And then I don't even think to ask or to really care if people care or want to know about these things. I just kind of like, this is this thing, and this is this thing, and this is this thing, I don't know.
Right. We had one question a little back. Let me try to find it. Here we go. When working on a project, do you have the urge to know different perspectives to check for blind spots you might have?
Yes, that's very much a thing, I guess. Like if I'm like, I've been writing a lot of articles and essays and research papers and stuff, and I always feel like no matter how much work I put into it and how much I like brainstorm on it and how much I work on it, I still feel after I've handed it in that it wasn't very good, and I immediately sour on it, because I feel like I immediately just get like a bunch of ideas where I'm just like, I wish I'd included this. I wish I'd, taken this perspective. I wish I'd included this. And then but that often actually ends up helping me, because then I'll have a bunch of stuff to talk about if I have like an oral defense or something of the paper, or I will just be like, I really wanted to include this and I really wanted to talk about this. And then it's just like, it seemed like it's good because then you have all these perspectives to bring in, and they love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I am getting that general like OE sort of vibe from you that you are very objectively focused in your information. Like you seem like careful what subjective information you're actually crafting, like your
Mhm.
subjective worldview. Have you thought about that? Do you see that in yourself a little bit? That like you're very objectively focused, very open to.
Again, that's one of I find it really, really hard to see OE and NE in myself. I think
Yeah.
it's really hard for me to see it. I think maybe it would be easier for me to see if it was masculine, because to me
Right.
it's like I've always likened it to like, it's like, how does it like people asking me, how does it feel to have a kidney? I'm just like, I don't know. I just like, I have a kidney. Like it's just like, because it's like, it's just how I think. It's just how I am. So it's like, how
Yeah.
do you like in your most basic response to things? I think it's really hard for me to detach myself from just being like, well, that's just what being human is, isn't it? But then you realize, oh no, 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 it's not, because other people see it this way, or other people approach the world this way. So
Yeah.
like, it's really hard for me to see any. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because like the objective focus is where we can all meet in objectivity, where we can all agree, where we can all, you know, at least see the same things. It's where the subjectivity comes in, where we can have the huge divergences in the way people think and the population and worldviews. And
Yeah,
so
but that's
it
also a question, isn't it? Like, what is objective? Oh, that's such a. But you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's like, where does that line go between like what we can agree on and what we can't agree on? That's the thing that always bugs me.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's that kind of definition. I think it's more like what you're striving to be. Like
Mhm.
if you're striving to be objective, well, then you will be objective, and that's kind of what I see OE doing. It's like, oh, let's try. Like they get upset when they're not objective enough, when people aren't connecting with their objectivity, I guess.
That checks out. I think that's true. Yeah, if I
Yeah,
spot someone where I'm like, there's not enough reliability in what you're doing, or there's not enough like there's not enough. You're putting yourself too much in your data. Essentially, you're putting yourself too much in what you're doing, and you're not
right.
respecting the information enough. Yeah, that does
Cool,
bug.
man. Well, is there anything you have a YouTube channel? I have it in the description already.
Oh
Anyone
wow.
want to go check it out? You've got some old videos talking about OPS like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
I took
Some
most of them down.
interviews.
I took most of them down because they're very offensively bad. I think. Like I really like. I was just so into it, and I was just like, I'm just gonna make a bunch of content where I describe it, and then like realized as I was making it that I was like just saying what they were saying. But the stuff I've still got up from that time, I've re-uploaded recently. Like I made it all private a while back because I moved away from OPS for a while, and now I'm
Right.
kind of back. But the stuff that's on it now is stuff where I can look back on it and go like, yeah, this is okay. I'm
This holds
fine
up.
with people seeing this. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good enough. Yeah.
And do you have any final message or something about your type maybe that you want to share with us?
I mean, like for a final message, I will just urge people, as I try to as much as possible, to not limit yourself to OPS. Like OPS is great, but there's also just so much more information out in the world on cognition and on the human psyche and understanding, and there's so much that complements it. And like I feel like one of the things that they don't talk about enough is how much of the information that Dave and Shan and the people in the community get from outside sources. Like we were talking before the interview about child developmental therapy. Like I happen to know that Dave has read about that. Like that's the thing that he brings up, like as like a thing in his analysis of things. Where I just feel like it's not like it's very encouraged, and I don't think they say it enough, to go look up what other people are saying and look up like what the neuroscience is saying, because it's all publicly available.
Mhm.
All really good information, and it complements OP. Trust me, I come
Yeah.
from the world of science now, and I can tell you that what is science isn't contradictory to OP. It's just like they just don't use the same terms, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically do the consume.
Do the consume, man. Do the consume.
The double activated consume. Yeah.
Do
Cool,
it.
man. Well, I really appreciate you coming out and reaching out to me, getting this interview going. Thank you so much for coming out, and really great meeting you. Good guy.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Take care, man. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah. I hope to see you around a lot more. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.